Well, hello. I am Dr. Anthony Edwards, and I'm an assistant professor of educational leadership and technology, and I'm teaching higher ed leadership this semester. And today we'll be discussing the role of formal and informal leaders in governance, the locus of power and authority. So, what are we going to go over today? Well, I'm glad you asked. We'll be discussing formal leadership in college organization, informal leadership examples, Tuckman's four stages of group development, Ben A. and Sheets' informal leadership types, and ways to gain respect and influence as an informal leader. And I think that's important because many of us are students in this course. You're mid-stage or early stage higher education leaders, and so a lot of what you will do to become a formal leader is to exert informal leadership. All right, so let's talk a little bit about formal leadership roles and how colleges are organized. So, most colleges are run by a president or a chancellor. In some university systems, like the Texas A&M University system and the University of Texas system, the leader of the system is a chancellor, and the institutions are run by presidents. And in some other institutions, the person who runs the system is a president, and the individual institutions are chancellors. But you usually see that in other states outside of Texas. But in either case, the president or chancellor typically reports to a governing board, and in Texas, a lot of times they're called boards of regents. So, like the Texas A&M University system has a board of regents, and the University of Texas system has a board of regents. So, and those are typically appointed by the governor of the state of Texas. It varies in other states. Um, President or chancellor's probably going to have a chief of staff and have a president's office. The chief of staff kind of leads that president's office and works with other administrative staff within that office to accomplish tasks for the president, manage the president's schedule, things of that nature. Work with the vice presidents who report to the president, and those vice presidents make up the cabinet. So think about in national politics, the president of the United States has a cabinet, and those people who are members of that cabinet are typically secretaries, like Secretary of Education, things like that. But in the higher ed environment, we call those typically vice presidents. And each vice president is going to have their own staff, uh, and that staff makes up a division. Okay, so academic affairs is typically going to be led by a provost, and who's the vice president for academic affairs, and there are going to be several academic deans who report to the provost, and department chairs that report to each dean. So let's talk a little bit about informal leadership. So with informal leadership, you've got shared governance, and that typically deals with faculty, particularly tenure track faculty or tenured faculty. And so the concept here is that essentially faculty need to be consulted on major decisions that happen at the university. And part of that, if you think of the historical trend, you know, most faculty at colleges and universities had tenure. And we're seeing over time a gradual decrease in the percentage of faculty who have tenure. And so that impacts shared governance, and uh, the in a sense, you've got if you think of it from politics, you have your executive branch, your judicial branch, and your legislative branch, and there's always this balance of power between the executive branch and the other branches, and you have kind of the similar relationship in higher ed where you'll have the administrative leadership, and they work with the typically the academic leadership and managing the affairs of the institution. Uh, we're seeing, I think, a larger general trend where that relationship is more um, consulting, making sure that their opinions have been heard, but not as much making the decision. Uh, and I guess what's unique about academic affairs in that respect is that um, with academic affairs, you'll have the provost who runs the division, and then you also have like senior faculty and things like that who are informal leaders in the sense that they're not deans, they're not the provosts, they're not department chairs, uh, but they are people who, because of the credibility they've earned, have a voice and need to be heard, and in terms of what kind of decisions are made, and they are also a sounding board to the rest of the faculty because the faculty listen to them, whether they're on faculty senate or just influential faculty members. So other things, when you think about informal leadership, uh, particularly not just in academic affairs but all across the college, are people who have influence. So in many of the roles that I've served in higher education leadership, whether a manager or director level, I usually had a small staff, and we were very lean. But I had the opportunity to have influence and work with vice presidents and directors, deans, etc., in a consulting role to help them make decisions. So influence is a big part of influential leadership. Uh, Being a role model. So if you've done well in your career in higher education leadership, you're a role model for others, and that also is a form of informal leadership. Opinion leader, another role there for the informal leader. They can help in kind of establishing, what's a good way to frame this idea. And that can be as a leader, and we'll talk about this more. Be very engaged with informal leaders because they can either support you or not support you. But if they do, if you're able to persuade them to agree with you, they can be an opinion leader to help you advance your cause. Informal leaders are also change agents. So change agents in the sense that colleges are always known for we've always done it this way, and this is the way we've always done things, and we're not changing. But informal leaders can give people who are sometimes hesitant to change a reason to change, and they can get people excited about it. Underground leaders, so again, they're not the formal leader, they're not the outward spokesperson, but they are the leader of the people, and get out there and kind of they know how to work and get people on their side. Facilitator, so they can they have great networks, they can link people, so if the right person to talk to about this is that, or they can help facilitate the discussion in a way that helps to keep the conversation from getting bogged down. Credibility without accountability, so they are folks that people trust even though they're not in a formal leadership role, and they're not accountable for the decision if it doesn't go well. Again, social networks, these are people who have wide and varied networks, so they know people at all levels of the organization, and they are well known throughout the organization. People know them and are willing to work with them. All right, so let's talk about groups, because there are a lot of groups in higher ed, small groups. One example that the authors talk about are committees. So there are a lot of committees in higher ed that you can serve on. They can be standing committees, or they can be ad hoc, committees that are for a particular project. And they reference Tuckman's 4 stages of group development in terms of how a leader can work in these groups effectively. So there's 4 stages. So the first stage is forming. And in the forming stage, you're really just starting where it says that you're forming these relationships. And you're basically clarifying, identifying boundaries for the task. So who's responsible for what can we do, what can we not do. Storming is the next stage. And in this case, think about the storms of life. Stuff happens. You start dealing with some conflict. Maybe it's within the group. People don't agree with each other, or different people want to be in control, or it could be just to the task. Maybe there's some barriers that are out there that are preventing them from achieving that goal. So norming is the next stage. You have group members that connect here, so that you're starting to kind of work through some of the issues and really starting to coalesce as a group instead of being just a group of individuals. So in the last stage, performing, is when you actually start getting stuff done. You're getting in the groove. You're accomplishing tasks. You're accomplishing goals. But you kind of have to go through the other stages to get there. All right, Benet and Sheets also have some informal leadership types. So they have all these different characteristics, and they grouped them into 4 types. So informal leaders are social leaders. So they are the person who, they know, everybody knows them, and they're well known in the organization. People like them. They're a leader of the people informally. They're a disruptor. And not in a bad way, but they see when things need to be changed. And even though this may be the way we've always done it, and it may disrupt what we already have going on, they see that sometimes you have to disrupt yourself in order to succeed and not be disrupted by other colleges. The opinion leader, again, that term has come up again. So just they're the person who has the great ideas, the thought leader. So when the leaders want to know what to do and who's got the pulse on what's happening in higher ed and where we need to go forward, and they go to these informal leaders. The task leader, the person who manages these projects and they get done. So if you're that person that when you get it done, that you develop a reputation for getting it done, or who's an effective project manager helping others and get things done. To reference some of our earlier work in this course, think about path goal. Are you removing the barriers for people to get the work done? Are you a team leader or servant leader that's helping the team, putting the team before yourself and getting things done? And so this task leaders in another way a person can be an informal leader. All right, so formal leaders really need to incorporate the informal leaders whenever they can. So these are the people, again, who can make or break your initiative. And so it's important to get their ideas and get their thoughts, even if you don't go their way or you don't agree with them all the time. They need to know that you at least consulted them, and they can help message things for you and help you explain things in a way that's going to persuade your audience. But it's important. Sometimes formal leaders think they can just make the decision and not have to consult these informal leaders. But as you move into formal leadership roles, remember that you were probably once an informal leader, and that is a good way for you to mentor people, but also to find out things that you don't know. All right. So what are some different ways you can gain respect and influence as an informal leader? Because I know many of you are in roles where you're early stage in your career and you may not manage or supervise a whole lot of people, but you are in roles where you have to help these formal leaders, and you're also a place where you're trying to move up and establish and be known in that organization. So First, you can build your network and make sure that it's varied, so you have people in different parts of the university. You know people in enrollment management. Do you know people in financial aid? Do you know people in student life? Do you know people in academic affairs? Do you know vice presidents? Do you know directors? Do you know individual staff workers who get stuff done? Uh, are you known as helpful and reliable? Are you that person who gets things done? Can you help people below you in the organization and above you? So if you're helpful, that's going to get you known. All right, and it gives you credibility as an informal leader. So help the people who are higher than you because they are relying on you, but also help those below you so they can grow. Uh, Understand team members, their strengths, their weaknesses, and connect them as necessary. Um, Help formal leaders by getting others to buy in. So if you know that that leader needs to get others on board, support them, help them in that goal. Don't compromise, your beliefs, but if it's something that you think would be okay if it happened, say so, uh, and that can be helpful. Uh, get stuff done, accomplish things. Uh, Nothing succeeds like success. So the more you get things done, the more you'll be well known as a person who gets things done, and people will look to you. Volunteer. Be the person who says yes whenever there's a project or a committee. When there's an opportunity to lead. Take when there's an opportunity to provide something or prepare something for someone. Volunteer. Uh, and when you're in meetings and there are ideas you know a meeting is going to happen, send out a draft of something to start the conversation, and it helps to position you as a thought leader and an informal leader, an opinion leader. Mentor others and seek mentors. So make sure that you are being a mentor to people below you and seeking mentors above you. That both of those can really help you stand out as an informal leader, and probably most importantly, help other people shine. Too often, people are only concerned about themselves shining, but if you can help other people shine, and you become known as the person that when people get attached to you, they grow. People are going to want to be a part of whatever it is you're doing. Okay, so let's recap what we discussed in this video. We talked about the way colleges are organized and how that's an example of formal leadership. We talked about examples of informal leadership. We talked about the 4 stages of group development. And we also talked about different types of informal leadership. We also discussed different ways that you can gain respect and influence as an informal leader. So I hope you enjoy this video and I hope you found it helpful. Let me know if you have any questions. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.